Draper. Draper is, it's just health. And this one disappointed me because he felt like a guy through the first 4 months with what he did to Carlos at Indian Wells and then playing Madrid on clay and translating and making a final there. And you felt like Ruud kind of stuck around until he was able to edge him out in that final. But you're looking at this guy going, oh, this, and also with the U.S. Open semi the year before, right? And that's, we lost to Sinner. It's like, is this one of the guys that can actually interrupt this stranglehold? And he felt like that guy for the first 4 or 5 months of the year. When he is in full flight, he looks the part of someone who's a top 3-4 player, right? And now, how does that translate over time? Can he get his body healthy? We thought he was going to come back for the U.S. Open. Shoulder not quite there. I hope he stays healthy because what he showed for that pocket of, September, late August through May 24 going into 25 was very exciting for the sport of tennis.
He finished in the top 10. He won one match after Wimbledon.
Yep. Did a lot of work.
That tells you, A, what kind of a first half of the year he had, but also you just worry about the health. And this is the anti-Bublik. I mean, this is someone who is very much attuned with how he is going to minimize volatility and how he's going to do everything in his power to improve. And it's diet and exercise and health. And he's very involved in his rehab, and just the recovery hasn't been there. And it's not because this guy's blowing off his rehab. So at full health, this is a top 5 player. He's already proven that.
I agree.
I just worry. I mean, he lost him to Marin Cilic in the second round of Wimbledon. Played one match at the U.S. Open, won that, and then didn't post for round 2, and that was in late August.
And there's going to be people need to understand how the rankings work too. 52-week ranking. So he stacked all of his points in the first 5 months of last year. So when you see his ranking potentially go from 10, let's say he actually plays well at Indian Wells and makes the quarters or the semis, he's going to be underwater with that result based on points coming off, right? So I think this ranking will probably get worse before he's able to kind of make a charge towards better. But I just wanted this story to continue this year, and unfortunately health got in the way. I hope that at some point we get back to that level that we saw at Indian Wells, because that was really exciting. And I don't know that it was a stretch to say this guy looks like a disruptor and could potentially have the firepower to do it. So I hope he gets healthy. Another person was certainly the firepower to be a disruptor, Ben Shelton. And I talked to Brian Shelton, Ben's dad, a couple of weeks ago, just kind of going through, I don't know if my opinions are right or wrong, but just kind of going through his game. And I told him, I said, I was heartbroken for Ben at the U.S. Open, because the thing that you want as a pro tennis player is to get to the point where you build, and then you are pretty close to positive about what your output is going to be on a given day. And Ben had gotten to that point by winning Canada. Every time he stepped on the court, you knew that it was going to be a pretty good product, right? Like there wasn't the peaks and valleys. The consistency was there, learning how to manage the game and all that stuff. And then, it kind of was, injury again, which in that second round, I think, at the U.S. Open. And I was just heartbroken because it takes months and months and months and years and years and years to get to the point where that output is predictable and you look like a top 5 guy. Ben had that. He had gotten to that point, and then injury interrupted it. I was really excited about his prospects of the U.S. Open before that injury, John.
Yeah, I mean, that was a disappointing day and concerning as well. I mean, you figure this is a pretty bad injury if he's ripcording at the U.S. Open. At the same time, I think a darn good year overall. And I think some of this was a result. Obviously, the Canada was sort of the highlight. He won 40 matches. He won on all surfaces. He came back and won some after that injury. And I think if we're looking at this career longitudinally, he's 23 years old. He's no longer just throwing heat. I mean, he's really becoming a much more nuanced player. The results at majors are going to disappoint, but I think on balance, I think this was a very solid year. And I think there are a lot of positive takeaways. I also think sometimes you see fathers in particular coaching players, and you sort of say, oh boy, this thing is not going to go away till this thing's not going to get better. Brian Shelton is a proper coach. This was a top 50 player. This is a guy who really studies the sport. This is not the guy who's there for the badge and the players lounge.
This is not the father coach who has the job because he was the father coach when the person was like 11. Brian Shelton was a top 50 player, made deep runs, I think 4th round at Wimbledon. My favorite stat is that I think he's the only person ever to coach a women's team to an NCAA title and a men's team to an NCAA title. Good. So talk about knowing the information, being able to deliver it to different styles, different types of play. And by the way, my son got up to 6th in the world under my tutelage as well. So Brian Shelton is the real deal. I actually think he would be a phenomenal episode. I would love that one at some point. I'm going to say this about our next guy, Musetti. Finishes at 8th in the world. I think we've become used to Musetti now the last couple of years. He was someone you looked at on a fast surface 2 years ago, certainly 3 years ago, and went, no chance. You were like, no, like he's not going to be like, he was the guy who was ranked 30 and then Bublik would play him when Bublik was ranked 90 and you go, oh, Bublik's going to run through this on a fast court. Like that's just the way it worked. He turned everything around in the summer of 24, Queen's final, Wimbledon semi, and has kept it, right? We've had enough cautionary tales of people who have a couple of big results and then kind of fade back to the mean. Not dissimilar, like Menchik we mentioned, and he has his whole career ahead of him, so it might not even matter. But he took that progress and has completely made himself into a different player. Clay, fast, kind of always there. Does he have, the big enough weapons on serve to challenge Carlos or Jannik and the bigs? I don't know, but who does? But point being, he took this kind of liability on faster surfaces, anything outside of clay. He looked like one of the old school clay court specialists to me for a fair amount of his early career. Guy has learned how to be effective on every surface. Massive props and respect for that.
I don't know what the ceiling is. It's a top 8 player, and he didn't win a single tournament. But I think you're right. And I think it's a little
Holy
like
Fokina.
Paolini-esque. Yeah, Holy Fokina, exactly. But it's only 20. He's got kids, and we've known his name for a while. Remember, it was a teenager. He took 2 sets off Novak at Roland Garros. He's 23 years old. So he's still figuring out this riddle as well. I think you're right. It's a little, I don't know. It's not a perfect analogy, but it's a little like Paolini, where there was sort of this revelatory year, and it was sort of like, okay, what's the next step? Can you sustain this? Will you be here next year? And here he is still in the top 8, winning a lot of matches. No tournaments, but a lot of matches.
He's sneaky younger than we all think, too, because he's been around a minute. Right? Like, when you start winning matches when you're 17, 18 on tour, and we know your name, and then, 5-6 years pass, and we think you're 29, but you're actually, 23, 24, something like that?
The kids' pictures throws us off every time.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, he's made, we call 25-year-olds up-and-comers now, and he's made a lot of progress with his game, and he's still, pretty young. Props to him. Was happy to see it. Alex de Minaur, I went on a rant this year after he got run out of the building by Sinner in Australia. And everyone's like, yo, man, this guy's... I'm like, shut up. Like, you talk about someone who maximizes. You talk about someone who, when you listen to him talk about tennis, you never say, well, that was dumb. Never. Total, doesn't serve huge, is effective off the baseline, knows how to play, and still in World Tour finals, he's frustrated because, that steel ceiling of the big guys. I don't know if it's something he'll ever break through, and I don't know that my respect could grow for this guy in the way that he goes about his business. Health was a bit of an issue this year, but he's the kind of guy that maybe Carlos and Jannik aren't stressed by seeing in the draw. And then I promise you, anyone outside of the top 10, seeing his name most weeks, you're like, this sucks. I don't want to have to deal with this guy.
He won 56 matches this year.
He's a fucking animal.
Guy is
exactly an animal.
And week in, week out.
Every week.
On any surface, every week. And I think you're right. I mean, look, he also he's very open about this. Sort of, he knows what the deal is, and he knows what the challenge is. And are you a guy who makes quarterfinals and wins the odd title and wins a lot of matches, or are you really going to be a competitor against these two guys? I mean, he sort of knows what the challenge is, and I would submit that, it's great to sort of have a game plan and know what the objective is. And if he gets there, great. And if not, and he's merely a guy who wins more than 50 matches reliably every year, there's nothing to be ashamed of with that either.
He's also, like, when we look back at the Australian tennis culture, right? And we think of like the all-time great guys, the Emersons, the Lavers, the Rosewalls, like you will not find better people, competitors, humans into rafters. And listen, Leighton and I,
Ash Barty,
Leighton and I got into a million fights, and also maybe the best competitor I've ever played. Nice to see someone who kind of pays homage to the back generations of Aussie players by putting on their hard hat and going to work, doing it the right way. Props to Alex de Minaur.
Fair dinkum, as they say. All right, what do we got next?
Fair dinkum, mate. Yeah, all that one. Taylor Fritz, end of last year, 4-6. This really comes down to breaking through against Alcaraz and Sinner, and this is going to be a common theme, right? He's getting to those points and slams most of the time now, or Novak at the U.S. Open, right? Hasn't beaten Novak yet. Is a tough matchup against Sinner, and Alcaraz, tough four setter at Wimbledon in the semis, but he's there. Like, it's not hard to be top 4 or 6 in the world, and he's kind of doing it every year now. Like, that's not nothing at all. It's a big deal.
And sort of a strange season, some sort of ups and downs. Did not win a hardcore title, and yet still hit that 50 win threshold. Did he win a hardcore title?
He might have won Del Rey.
I thought he won a.
Maybe I'm wrong. That might have been the year before. Anyways, go ahead.
I know you. In a weird way, and I don't think, listen, he gets to the final of the 2024, the last major of 2024, doesn't come close to that in 2025. I think by his standards, it's not a disastrous, dire situation. It probably didn't quite live up to his expectation. I also thought Taylor Fritz sort of revealed himself to the tennis public this year. He's really smart. He's really funny. He's really informed. He has opinions and has taken. He sort of became this moral leader. So I'm not sure there was a breakthrough results-wise. He's still a top 6 player. But I think in a weird way, he sort of changed his standing in the tennis world. Having strong, informed, intelligent opinions, I realize, doesn't buy you ranking points. But I think sort of as a composite, Taylor Fritz in a weird way was a revelation this year.